Ja, Sten, jeg har den. Jeg skal bare være sikker på, at det er den rigtige, jeg har.
There's two versions.
It's the one that... There's one 4 megabyte?
Yeah.
So, come up here. I'm just going to do like this, because I just want to make sure that it's the right one. The last slide?
Last slide, yes. Yes, that's a good.
Okay, good. I didn't want to mess up anything for you.
Sorry?
I didn't want to mess up anything for you.
Great, thank you.
Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Kurt Gammelgaard Nielsen. I'm the CIO of the University of Southern Denmark. I will be chairing this session. I've been looking forward to having this session with such a splendid audience and presenters. We will, joining in this session will be the CIO for the NREN, and we have prepared a session like this that they will all present themselves and having 10 minutes to introduce what the future are like for the NRENs. And thereafter we will have a hopefully good panel discussion, and I hope you will joining in our discussion. It will be more livid and vivid if you're joining in, especially taking account to this late hour on the afternoon, so hopefully you will join us in this discussion. First presenter will be Harry Kustu. Please come up here. Harry is representing the CEO from the Finland and substitute, and I'm happy that you can come with such short notice, and please, welcome.
Using this mic or?
The red one.
Okay. Hello everyone. I'm Harri from Finland. I'm not the CIO of Funet, no, but I'm the best you can get in this room at the moment. Yeah, my boss, Janne Kanner, is actually the director of Funet. Was not able to travel today, but I'm here. I'm trying to make my best, and if you have some questions, you can ask even in the middle of my presentation or later in a panel discussion. Okay, let's start. So, what is CSC? Because all the NRENs are a little bit different in different countries. I just talked with Einar here, and we had some nice discussion about the differences between the NRENs in different countries. Well, CSC is a big company, at least it's a big in Finnish scale, It's owned by Ministry of Education and Culture in Finland. It's a non-profit company, and it operates the FUNET network, and I'm the development manager of FUNET network. And we also have another group of people who is dealing more with the network side. I'm operating with the service side. Turnover at CSC level is a little bit over 30 million euros last year, and I guess it's still growing. Employees, 260, and now I'm again talking about CSC level employees total, and about 20 is working FUNET-related things. But that's not actually true, because we are also taking advantage of CSC, like communications, marketing. We don't have such persons working at FUNET making those things happen. But yeah, the total FTEs is about 20. End users, yes, there are some, and it has been growing a little bit last years, not a lot, but a little bit anyway. The amount of organizations is about 80, and half of them are universities, and the rest 40 is institutes, research institutes, ministries, and other like hospitals of universities, museums, yeah, a lot of different kind of organizations in Finland. Okay, to the topic of today. Why to choose FUNET? And yeah, I think it's the same in different NRENs, why NRENs are needed, and what's the case for NREN. Okay, I wanted to first write about the quality, because in my opinion, it's one very important and one of the biggest things that makes the difference between, for example, academic network like NREN and commercial teleoperators. The quality, and of course, with the network side and with the service side. The fact that NREN connects the national NREN to other NRENs and the researchers all over the first Nordic countries, then to the Europe, and then to the abroad, like internationally. It's when you add the quality aspect to that sentence, yeah, it really makes sense in my opinion. The relationship between cost and quality, it's something that I can claim heavily that in NRENs can do better than others in the level of quality, and when you compare it with the cost that will be in organizations when you are a part of this community. And NRENs are serving, or they are providing more than just an internet access. Yeah, and that's very interesting, because if you compare only the internet access, if your organization really doesn't care about international connections, well, are there such a thing? I don't know. But anyway, if you compare just the internet access, you don't need any collaboration, or you don't need other NRENs, whatever. I think, yeah, you can go to the shop market and buy internet access pretty cheap, even in Finland. I guess it's the same in Sweden and other countries. But we are not just the internet access. And sometimes we really need to tell our organizations that, or remind them that we are a little bit more than just the internet. We have more. Another thing is the service portfolio, of course. We have such services which are not possible for some commercial operators even to offer, or at least in a reasonable price. For example, light pads. It's an example. If you add the international light pads, okay, then we are winning, I think. File sender. There's no such service anywhere else. You have to be in NREN to have that kind of service. That's my opinion. Please tell me if you know that there's something similar somewhere. The use of centralized services, and that's also a very interesting area because, or subject, because yeah, it works sometimes and it's clever to have some centralized services, but it's not always clever. The things change and the way the end users are using, what kind of services they are using. It depends that if they are willing to use centralized services, if it's secure and so on. So there is some questions that also makes this centralized services like, is it always the best way to do it? It's not always the best, but sometimes it is very, very good idea. NRENs, hopefully, and I know they have active national and international cooperation. Where we are sitting here, that's the cooperation. We are having things like these others also, and international level. I hope you other NRENs have the same kind of things that we do. We have this kind of FUNET technical days, for example, the seminar for 2 days that the organization can send their people to have information about the new services of ours and so on, and also collaborate together between each other. Education, sharing the best practices. Yeah, that's what NRENs are all about, I think, and I hope. About the future. I wanted to show you this nice graph. It's about the traffic. You can probably see that something has changed. And we don't even know what made the change. We can guess at the moment. And yeah, we have good guesses and not so good guesses. But anyway, yeah, well, to go to the picture, yeah, this is the traffic from FUNET to Nordnet and from Nordnet to FUNET, and that means that the upper curve there, the more dark one, is the data we are downloading from Nordnet to FUNET, to Finland. And the pink one, yeah, it's pink. It's an opposite side, so that's the data we are kind of uploading or to the international side, to the Nordnet. There's some difference between those curves. Something has changed. The trend of how the people are using network, at least in Finland it changed. And I know that the same graph is in area and I know in Nordnet level the change has been, it's dramatical if you compare it 2 years ago, the situation 2 years ago. You can also see, I'm not sure if you can also see that there is some interesting trends. Well, that's the time of Winter Olympics. If you, well, when is the Winter Olympics? I don't remember if it's every year. But anyway, there hasn't been such a behavior in using network before. Very interesting. And the challenge is understanding the changing trends, in my opinion, again. We should understand more how people are really using, how educational use is changed and is going to be changed in the future. The network usage, the mobility, of course. We all are connected several ways at the moment also. And nowadays it's like the air we breathe, the internet, always, everywhere, all the time. Cloud services, other new service needs, they are there. We have to understand them, and we should be able to react even more rapidly or more agile way than we probably was able to do 10 years ago, for example. Reshaping the service portfolio, that's one big challenge. Services come and go. NREN should be there more than come and go. Communication and marketing. Yeah, we didn't need so much marketing 10 years ago. At least I don't remember. I've been around NDN world for 12 years, 8 months. Yeah, we have to market also. That's 2 years ago, we didn't like even the word marketing. We didn't even like, in Funet, we didn't even call our customer organizations as a customers. We were like, oh no, we are not selling anything. We are just making things happen, you know. But things are changing. Now we really have to market, and it's not only the marketing, but it's the communication about the services. Even in the simple way to put it, I mean, we have to tell organizations that what kind of services we have, what's our service portfolio, because many times they don't know. They don't know about the new service was just launched. It doesn't cost anything, go and use it. You have to tell it. They don't know about the services, if you have to tell them. That's a challenge. And at least in Finland, there has been some organizational changes among the members. There has been some alliances, a couple of universities, 3 maybe, goes together, and the result will be one big member instead 3 small members. It has some challenges. Institutes, they are changing, at least in Finland, they are changing themselves to be companies. And and companies means that they have a CIO who really have to calculate the budget a little bit different way than it was before. Financial challenges, at least again in Finland. I don't know, it's everywhere, yeah. The money talks. If you don't have money, then you need to sometimes make hard decisions. Anyway, I see that there is a case for NDN. Now, there is a case for NDN in the future also. I hope I'm right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please take a seat until we change our slide. And please allow me just to summarize what I heard from the Finnish part of NDN. You said and argued that it's cost effective. That's one of the points why we should have NDN also in the future. There are some additional services, and there is some cooperation going on between the NDNs to develop new services and new features. Yeah, okay, thank you. And then now we go further back to Denmark, to Sten Petersen, CEO of DIC, Danish E-Science Infrastructure Corporation. Was it right? I hope so. Please.
Yes, thank you very much, Kurt, and thank you for the presentation, Harry. If this has been for 3 years ago, I think I would have pretty much held the same presentation. More or less, I could say this is how research networking will develop and has always developed, and so on and so forth. How many of you attended the session in this room before the lightning talks? So you heard Dorte, and you heard from Internet 2, and you heard Gudmund's talks. And I think there are new things happening in this area. And I'll try to point at a few of these things as well. So I'll skip the talk that I would have held 3 years ago and say something else. Because in Denmark, the research network was actually combined with something else 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And we've got a completely new situation. As David Lambert says, I mean, what is on campus is now going to be national, and what is national is now going to be international. So collaborations between the actors you have in your country is dramatically changing nowadays, I think. Universities have to work together. They have to work smarter. They cannot afford to be silos of individuals, I think. So for some reason, that was a disruption in the situation of how this area was organized in Denmark a few years ago. And they built this new organization called the Danish E-Infrastructure Corporation. And this is a new word. E-infrastructure is different from networking. But I mean, it's a core part of it. And I think we should remember, and we must definitely not forget, that we are part of a global research infrastructure. The networking business is core in a global research infrastructure. I think that is the important part. And that is what Harry said. It has all of these nice features. It has good pricing, it has high quality, and so on and so forth. And it does not work. It does not make sense if we're not doing it, all of us, and making things work together as one kind of infrastructure. So DIKE was born a couple of years ago, and the vision here is not only to make the network a very well-functional research network, but it is to make e-science available for all relevant Danish research. And that is much more than networking, I think. On top of the vision, we had a number of goals just to illustrate what is actually set the scene for the discussions and the developments within DIKE the last couple of years. I mean, we must coordinate and ensure a national development on e-infrastructure at a reasonably international level. We must facilitate the international cooperation. And what is more important, I think, is we now have an obligation to try to make e-science available for completely new groups of scientists that has not been there yet. And recently we have used a lot of time and a larger effort in an area called data managing. How do you create a national notion of handling your research data? This is not a per university issue. This is an international issue which has a national component and has also a local university component. And I mean, moving data, storing data, having data is kind of what we have the networks for. So the network, I think, is the basis for this transformation. And we need to have the research networks to make everything possible, that this new orientation, I think about the e-science activities, the e-infrastructure layers we have. And we have struggled with how do we illustrate the new kind of needs that we have to address. And currently, the best guess is something like this, where we have an kind of, I think, future service matrix. The work with data management issues, it involved a lot of research, a lot of people from the libraries, from the national data banks, and so on and so forth. And they came up with that research data is not just research data. You have to develop, you have to be aware that there are different scientific areas and they have different culture, different notions, different ways of handling their data. You have to be aware of that. And then we have the situation on where is the researcher, where is the data, where is the resources that they need, where's the part of the infrastructure, local on the university, on the campus, or is it a national issue, or is it really an international issue? And then I think you have the infrastructure kind of stack, or whatever you should call it. Usually, we have been for 15 years now, I think, dealing with network and been perfectly happy with that. I don't think that is enough anymore. I think we have to collaborate with those guys who are doing the computational sides, those guys who are doing the storage and the data management, and those who are developing services and applications on top of that. I think we have to look at this as one intertangled system and setup. And then we have to find the right solutions. Where do we do things locally? Where do we do it nationally? Where do we rely on international collaborations and so on? And I think that is the obligation for the research networks, infrastructure organizations in the future. So, my best guess is that the future for NRENs will be as a part of a national e-infrastructure coordinator or provider. It does not have to be centralized, everything in one large organization. It may be useful in some cases, it may not be useful in any cases, but there must be a coordination. Somebody has to take responsibility for that. And then I think we must not forget that whatever we do, it's part of an international research infrastructure, which is of great use for researchers all over the globe, not only our own universities and our own researchers. So, I think that will end my 10 minutes.
Yeah.
How much it was. Okay?
Thank you. Until we switch to the new speaker, I'll try to summarize the Danish point of view here. As I heard it, what is local is now national or will be in the future national. What was national will be international. That was one of the challenges that NREN can address. And the other part was the matrix that you have data management, you have HPC, you have other types of services that probably is only or specific to the sector for research and education, and NREN are good at organizing these kind of services and making a cooperation around it. Is that fair to summarize this as the Danish point of view here?
I accept that.
Good, thank you, good. Then I will welcome Marion Hall from Sweden, this CEO from SUNET. Welcome.
Thank you very much. There's so many good things been said already, so I'm not going to repeat so much, but I am going to recall a lot of things that you're saying, but of course it applies on SUNET and the development we see and also the challenges we see in the future. But a short fact about SUNET, we are owned by the Swedish Research Council, and that's an agency that's connected to the Ministry of Education, and we are in FTEs, we are 6 persons in our management team, but we are a very virtual organization. So in the SUNET community, we are many, many more people taking care of our services, our system managers. We have groups working with security. We have innovation and other incubator-oriented activities and so on. So we are maybe like 30 persons. And of course, a lot of the Nordnet staff is working with SUNET as well. And this is the Nordnet network, and it also makes me think about the increased need of collaboration, exactly as Sten is, sorry. I hope it's not jumping here. It's Emma is here, I have to call her here. Anyway, Emma is our communication manager, take care of the presentations. Anyway, so, but it's actually what Sten was saying. I also think the need of collaboration much more. And I'm going to quote these guys that's been talking about a lot of interesting things. The uniqueness of us networks. We are not the ISPs, we are something completely different. But that also means that we need to collaborate, we need to meet our networks, the other NRENs, and make it work. Not only of course, on a Nordic point of view, but also with other NRENs in the world. So that's very important, and also recalls a lot of comments from the other speakers. But if we look a little bit about SUNET, so this is our network right now. It's a 10 gigabit plus 10 in a redundancy system to our customers. And we are actually right now procuring a next generation of SUNET, so it's going to be even more high capacity network to try to meet the needs of our customers. And if you see the customers right now, so we have our 33 university and university colleges, but we also have other agencies and all kind of, organizations that some way or the other are connected to research and education. And that are actually pretty many of them in Sweden. What is interesting to touch upon is actually what Sten was saying, that we see we see that actually the research area is increasing. So what we're working with right now is actually an MOU with the National Archives and collaboration on European e-infrastructure. And here comes the word again, the e-infrastructure. We're moving a lot of times from only working with infrastructure to work with e-infrastructure. But on the other hand, e-infrastructure could be so much. So that is something we actually have to elaborate a little bit together with our customers and our collaborating friends in the world, in the NREN world, so to speak. That's not only actually with the National Archive. We had a discussion with the Minister of Education a few weeks ago, and they see actually that many of the cultural institutions more and more are going to have researchable material, which means that also going to be included in what we see as the normal, the natural research community, so to speak. So that's going to be, I think, or they think, going to be another type of customers that's going to be connected to our NRENs. Supposedly not only in Sweden. I could assume that also going to happen in other worlds, in other parts of the world. So that is a network. I don't have to say so much about that else. Then for us, the network, I think it's always going to be the core business for us. Have the high capacity network, make sure it's connected to other NRENs, make sure that the researchers and other persons being involved in the research and education area have the possibility to collaborate inside Sweden, with the Nordic countries, all around the world actually. So the network is always going to be very important, and not only be another ISP. And I think it was interesting when we heard Dale Lambert, you also mentioned him, he was talking a little bit earlier, before lunch, and he was talking about the network, the importance of the network, which I totally agree upon. We have to work with that all the time. But the network is actually there because you want to reach the content, and that's actually the need of the network is actually to reach content instead of just the network as it is on its own. That was an interesting perspective that I picked from his speech. And another thing that is very important for us, which we talk about more and more, and I think that was also mentioned a little bit, at least I asked this guy that was having, this Torben, I think his name was, having the key presentation in the morning, that we see all this big data development, and I think that is going to put a lot of pressure or need of some kind of security and identification. So for us, we talk about our network as a core business, our more or less most valuable thing we have in Sunet. But the next infrastructure, of course, is identification infrastructure. The Swedish, SVAMI, the Swedish, you have the WAVE in Denmark, for instance. And the next level on this development of identification is the EduID that Hans was mentioning, Hans Nordlöf was mentioning in the lighting talks, which is going to be like a national identification system. For instance, for students who wanted to apply for entering the universities and so on. So what we see is also something that was mentioned a little bit earlier, that we, from being only the owner of an infrastructure and providing connectivity in Sweden and towards other NRENs, we see also that we more and more are selling things, so to speak. We also call our university as another agencies for customers nowadays. I don't think that was happening a few years ago. So this is something that have been evolving the last few years for Sunet, as well as other NRENs. And I'm not going to go into details on this. I just want to mention them because, of course, this is more or less growing into a portfolio of services that's provided for our customers. This is interesting because it also had the need of a strategy for us as an NREN. What services will we provide for our customers? And when do we say yes and when do we say no? And how do we make sure that this particular service is going to be, necessary for our customers? So that means that we have to have some kind of process to actually come to the conclusion that this is a service we're going to provide and this is a service we're not going to provide. So the dialogue between us and the customers are becoming more and more severe and more important, I think. And of course, that's not only on the national level. I see the need of having this increased the dialogue with the other Nordic countries and the NRENs. But of course, this is happening also on the European level, and I'm sure it's going to happen on a global level. So there are a lot of things happening here that's going to change our behavior a little bit, and the dialogue towards our customers and towards our NREN colleagues, which have customers on their own. So if you see the future challenges, I just picked a few words, and many of the things has been said already, not only by Harry and Sten, but also in the previous speeches. But of course, this international collaboration has been mentioned a lot now, and that is interesting to discuss, but because how could that take place, and what kind of way do we do that in an efficient and a transparent and open way? The virtualization have been mentioned, the cloud services have been mentioned, the researchers, the students, the people, the teachers, and so on, of course, are moving much more, traveling, having their work in different places. Of course, that means that we need other type of services which need identification and so on. So it takes, of course, a lot of need for security, for instance. And of course, I can't help mentioning internet development a little bit, because that was I was working with at the Swedish government for 10 years before I started to work with SUNET, because I think one way or the other, the internet development with the legislation, the governance of internet, one way or the other is going to affect us as well, because we are not an ISP, but one way or the other, we are a part of internet, a part of the global network. So that is, of course, I think going to affect us some way or the other, I think. Else than that, we had many other interesting challenges and opportunities mentioned by Sten and Harry, so I think I stop here.
Okay, thank you. Great. Would it be fair to say that there seems to be, from a Swedish point of view, a raison d'etre in the infrastructure, the ESP, but you would like to add the value of, you mentioned that at last here, the law, the legislation, how to develop the internet, that could be an NREN position that is important to take up because there is no one else. I seem to there is a slightly different from Sten and Harry here. You have put on this legislation that could also be something that NREN should do in the future. They've probably done it in the past, but also in the future to develop internet and acceptability towards the other regions.
Well, one way or the other, we are already doing that by, for instance, engaging in standardization with identification and other standardization projects going on. I mean, we have many of our colleagues in the NREN organization are working with this kind of thing. So one way or the other, we're actually affect this internet development anyway. But I think we shouldn't go into politics. Actually, that's
the limit.
Yeah, but of course, what is politics? That we can discuss as well. But I think we need to keep an eye on what's happening and engage in things that's going to, be good for our community and actually, one way or the other, affect us and our networks and our services. But I think we're doing that already.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker from Iceland, Sifur. That's right, correct pronunciation. Thank you. Welcome.
I hope you have heard about Iceland. And we have a small research and university network in Iceland. Iceland is rather big, with a few people. But University of Iceland is one of the founders of Nordnet, and we are very proud of that. We started with a company called Suris, and then we took over that company, and it's now called RHNet. It was founded in 2001, Of course, we have a mission. We are trying to connect all research and education institutions in Iceland to the best infrastructure in the world. Of course, that's a rather difficult task. We are connecting 7 universities, 12 research institutions, 2 hospitals, and last year we connected 32 secondary schools and 12 live learning institutions. We have connection to Northernnet. Luckily, we have 2.5 gig to London and 10 to Denmark through Faras sea cable. Of course, we would like to see better connection around Iceland, and that is what we are working on. We want to improve the base service, the service we get from I am from the University of Iceland. What service are we getting from RSNet connection? That's very simple. That's all. Okay, we are the biggest university in Iceland, and we are cooperating with the other universities, especially the state-owned universities, and we are giving them a lot of services. Of course, we want to expand our operation, but that is rather difficult. And we are the leading institution in Iceland. I know this is a rather short talk about very little NDN. But afterwards, I would like to show you what is going on in Iceland. Or what is the future of Iceland? Who knows? The nature is taking and telling us what is the future, not us, not the science or nothing. What is going on in Iceland? There is going on an eruption in the northeast of Iceland, and we can expect everything. And we are not controlling the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this is different kind of challenge, one can say, middle in the ocean, how to establish connectivity, and especially if the island is not stable. So we'll look forward to the film here. Last but not least, Peter Hauks from Uninet in Norway.
Yeah, thank you. I'm the last one, so I can guarantee that this is the very, very last. So I hope you can cope with me for a few minutes. Lots of things are in common, of course, between those 5 NDNs, but I'll give you maybe some differences as well. A few facts. We are a limited company owned by the government. I think we are maybe the largest also with a network focus. We are 100 employees, mostly working with networks, but not all. We are serving 200 institutions, whereof 35 of them is universities and university colleges. The others are research and education related, but non-profit organizations. Our activity areas span from network quite widely. We are covering the research network as our basic activity, of course, but then we're also moving further to the campus networks. We are moving on to the administrative systems which are operating into the campus. We are also moving into the support infrastructure for education and research. So we are actually also involved into the primary activity at our institutions. And we are doing identity federation. But in addition to that, we are also doing actual network research. Not network research ourselves, but we are providing our infrastructure for networking research. So we have very close ties with the university, Technical University of Trondheim, NTNU. So their scientists are using our network as a laboratory for experimenting with networks. So we have been part of a Center of Excellence for Research for more than 10 years, and we now have agreements with universities which are continuing that. Some of our activities are organized as separate daughter companies. So the work we are doing on e-infrastructure is organized as a daughter company. And the same is our national registration.no registration authority. And of course, we are part of Nordnet and Dante. This kind of activity has developed. We started out in the 80s with the focus on the research network, of course. And this has been with us for all this period. Already in 1994, we started to go into the campus networks because we realized that being able to provide the best services to our users, to the researcher and to the teacher, you have to provide the service all the way out to the user. And our campus networks wasn't of that quality that was possible each time. So that was why we are having a heavy focus on campus networks. And I think we have one of the most homogeneous networks in our environment today in Europe. Very homogeneous, both the research network and the campus networks. And then we continued with the administrative systems, economy systems, HR systems, archive systems, and so forth. We are moving into the e-infrastructure, which we have been in the leading seat of for more than 10 years now. In 2011, we moved to the support of education. And in 2013, we established a secretariat for coordinating the security issues for our institutions. So when they are when they are bringing up the different activities within security, it's also happening in a defined environment organized by us. As you say, there's a question mark with regards to architectures. There's a heavy focus on architectures now, but we still haven't managed to make that a proper organization around that. And now for the next year, we have said that 2015 should be the year where we are really focusing on the cloud services. Actually, we have two roles, more or less. We are a service provider, and mainly with regard to the network and the network services. And there we will go along all the way. We are also open for providing sector-specific services, also services which are not available in the market. Services we cannot buy and get from others. So services which are specific for Norwegian higher education and research. But besides being a provider of these services, we are mainly a national service coordinator. And here we have taken on a specific role different from other national actors. Other national actors in Norway is specific on library systems or archive systems. UNET has moved into from a network provider to be a general ICT coordination provider. So we are now more or less a general ICT coordinator in our sector. So we are doing project management, we are doing purchasing and negotiating contracts for while purchasing. We are doing architecture and portfolio controlling, and we are moving into information security. And the reason for doing this is that in the past, our sector, our universities, is well known as any other university of developing the ICT themselves. In the future, we will more or less get most of what we need out in the cloud. And this is a move towards such a situation where most of our services will be collected by the cloud, and our major challenge is to organize this in a proper way so that this can come quickly and easily into the organization and put into function. So the major change in our sector in Norway is that we are moving into a very close collaboration with our institutions. We cannot sit isolated as a research network provider and accept and anticipate that our institution will listen to whatever we are saying. We have to involve them, because this is not just a question of taking on new services, but you have to also reorganize how ICT is going to be performed. The universities will themselves also collect services from the cloud, and the running of services is not their major task anymore. It's the support of the users, which maybe is moving to be the most primary task. So when you are supposed to reorganize your whole sector, you have to have really close collaboration in that. There will be lots of more common services. Instead of each university buying their services, it's an agreement now that we are buying services in common. So much more common services than in the past. There's a very increased amount of external services, of course. And there, as I said, increased focus on advanced user support. And we are now also looking into new price models. Because when you are buying services from the cloud, you are also challenged about how do you share the cost using that. So we are into a discussion about what's supposed to be the mandatory basic set of services for Uninet. How should we bundle services from the market, or how should we bundle the services which we are generating ourselves? And should it be cost-based price models, or should it be more political price models? This is discussions which is now going to take place, not only by Uninet and its users, but also with the government and other bodies. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. This was the presentations. The floor is now open for questions, so feel free. I will start off with one question, and probably just try to summarize the Norwegian point of view here. It seems to be a difference here between you and the rest of the NRENs, that you actually have full-blown IT department providing not only the internet and the identity services like FIDE or VIVE in Denmark, but also looking inside the universities, economy systems, HR systems you mentioned. Question I would like to ask the panel: what is the future for NREN? What is the value proposition from Norway? The value proposition seems to be full-blown, where you can pick and choose the services you would like, and from other NRENs is the ESP and some additional services. What should the future for NREN be? From my point of view, being a CIO, so I would like to buy some services, buy some infrastructure. What is, from your point of view as NREN, what is the value proposition you're giving me as a CIO at a university? Anyone going to address that? Yes, please.
Well, actually, while listening to my dear colleagues here from Finland and Denmark and Norway and Iceland, I think I hope we answered that question already. Frankly, by talking about the need of collaboration, not only inside our countries on the local level, but also on the Nordic level, but also between the other NRENs in the world, to be able to provide collaboration for the researchers. So that's one of the answers. That's actually two of you and even I mentioned as an important role for us, and that role is going to increase, I think, which means that we have to kind of build other boundaries, with connections to other organizations in a more efficient way, maybe. But that's one answer. The other answer is, of course, that we need to provide services that is going to help our researchers, for instance, and our universities to be able to collaborate. I mean, not only the network. So this is something that we've been talking about, and we also heard other speakers talking about this, which we pick up as an NRENs. So I think we answered that already, but.
Thank you. Sting?
I would like to bounce that question. I mean, we have to discuss with you CIOs, what do you need? What are your requirements? And do you want to produce it yourself, or do you want to buy it in the market, or do you want to have a national solution? I think we need to go into a dialogue and find out how to create the solutions that is the most suited for this time frame we are in right now. I think things will change very rapidly from now on. There are cloud solutions, there are national solutions growing up, and there are some legislation problems and so on. And together we have to find the right way of solutions. And by all means, you own us. The universities own our organizations and can decide what they actually are going to do. I mean, our board is fully governed by universities and research institutions.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I have to add, and I agree, of course, and about the services, or about the way NRN where NRN should go with the, for example, with the service portfolio. We need cooperation, and we shouldn't kind of guess that what NRN should do. We should have discussions and more cooperation and the knowledge and the way we are doing things. It have to be decided together, I think.
Thank you. Let me elaborate a bit about that, because when I heard your presentation, there is a slight difference in how the national level have organized this, the NRENs. From Norway, very centralized, big institution, to probably Denmark, where it's a fairly new organization and more matrix-like. Is there a more efficient way to organize this? Is there one way to do it? Should it be different ways? Are the current organization fit for the purpose for what's coming to us in the future?
Yeah, I think that's an important one, and I think there is differences. Well, of course, there is differences in countries. There's differences in the way the NRN is organized and even owned in different countries. But there is similarities also. We are dealing with the same kind of services pretty much, and as I was talking before, with the centralized services, that's one major thing, that when it really works. It saves money, and it gives more savings to the organizations and universities and others in NRN. That's one major thing, in my opinion.
Thank
you. For Iceland, it's rather simple. We have been running the Nordic high-performance computing centers in Iceland with a very green environment. And I think that is the future for us. So I don't think RHNets are going to make service to the university more than they are doing now, but ARISNet is connecting university from the Nordic, from the United States and United Kingdom, and we have our water power stations, very green, and geothermal energy. That's our future.
And feel free to ask. Yes.
So I have a question for you, representing the customers. What is that you want, right? So I mean, I heard Sten talking about the dialogue, but what is it that you want? Do you want IT services, or do you want us to help you with your researchers? Because I mean, coming from the NREM perspective, we are started as research network, so we work for the researchers.
I think I'm not able to answer the question for all CEOs, but I can answer for myself.
Answer for your.
And from the cooperation I have with other CEOs in the Nordic region, and what we have been speaking about a lot is we like to have certain services given to us, paid entrance, the basic services like storage, like network, like video, they seem to be very fit for the purpose the organization that is in the entrance. So these are actually spot on what we need. The question probably is, do we need other services? Are the other services too specific for Denmark, Norway, and etc.? So we can't actually develop a service that could Scandinavian or could be national for whole Denmark, but have to be from my university. There seems to be a problem when I, as a CEO, are offered services from NRENs, and it's the challenge to communicate services that is given to us, to my researchers and to teachers. And you addressed it as well. NRENs are more marketing now than before. They are more sending us newsletters about what is happening and what is services are now provided to us. My challenge is actually to communicate that in a department that could actually use some general services like Adobe Connect, like FIDE or Wave, and there are some specific services like HPC and maybe big data services, so I have to address them differently. So, try to summarize it. There will be some basic services I would like to have from NRENs, but there will probably be some other additional services I would like to buy maybe from others or build my own. But what I shouldn't do, and this is my point, I shouldn't be building the same that they're offering. So why build a storage? Why build a backup if that is offered to us? Why build a video service if that is given to us? And that is actually the case. I've done it myself recently. So I just probably, that's one department starting off with a video conferencing system, and well, there's a specific need. Can we address it with Adobe Connect? No, there's this slightly difference. What do I do? Maybe I give in. In this case, other times we stay hard and say, you're not doing this. We have a perfectly suited service here for you. So that will be my...
So are you trying to scale up your services so they could be offered by the NREN instead? For everybody in Denmark?
We should actually do the other way around. We should scale down services from the infrastructure services. So why should I build storage solutions when we can build them together?
No, that's not what I meant. So okay. I meant sort of that was what I meant. So I mean, if you really have something that is good, I'm not saying that you should offer it yourself, but it's probably something that other universities in Denmark have a need for. So that could be offered centrally or purchased together by Dike then in that case, right?
Yeah.
So we are, and looking at what we have been doing in Nordnet, we have been scaling services up that Sunet and Unenet has been doing locally, and then we moved that up the chain to have it as a Nordnet service instead. So we're trying to do the same thing, just on a other scale.
Fully agree.
I think there is a major change in communication going on now, because we have been used to communicate with the ICT organization at the universities, and I think the communication has been directly to them, and behind them we don't actually know what's going on, and I don't think that it's too good, because when we started this eCampus program with supporting education, it was not as a consequence of that the educators were coming to us and asking for services. We saw that there was a need for it, and we started the program, and we went out and do you want to use it? And I wanted to do it. So I think from communicating only by the ICT organization, we have to start communicating with more people and more places out at the universities. We have to talk with administrative people, with the educators, with the researchers, and so on. And we haven't been used to that. So taking on the customer treatments, which has been mentioned several times today, I think that's important now.
This is an interesting point. You're speaking several times now about customers. I think that's a slightly different than probably before, that we were partners or colleagues. But it's interesting because that will actually change the cooperation we will have. There will be advantages, but there will also be disadvantages. We have also tried this to have services that we have built up and given to a national level, so it can function on a matrix, like Sten was telling about. We can have the local services that can actually be offered nationally. We can be colleagues there. We can be partners, but we can also be customers. But we probably have to be very precise when we are customers and when we are operations. I think Jan has a question.
Yes, one thing I'd like to talk about, that's the way we seems to be scared of talking to each other between the NREN and the university. We're not very open, telling I might like to do this, I might like to do that. And especially we are very scared to go into the university area and address the researchers, the employees of a university, because that's your area. We don't want to tell you how to do things in your area as well. Well, most of the time you're way better than we are. And likewise, you don't tell us that we should be much better at doing this international thing this way or another way, because you expect us to, know things about it, perhaps. I think this is changing a little from the network time to the performance computer time to the services. We have to go deeper into the university and address individual users, because we don't have an offer for a whole university. We might have an offer for specific researchers. So I think we are changing a little from the way we are doing things and the services we provide.
I don't know if the panel is agreeing on this, and if they agree on NREN should be more into the university, like in Norway, addressing departments, researchers directly. What kind of organization will that need actually? And what role should we have there, the CIO and the NRENs? Good question.
Well, I just going to kind of comment on your comment on calling it customer or not. I don't really think that matters so much. I think the process actually and the dialogue, the cooperation is actually the partnership that you talk about is the main thing. And of course it is the case that we as an NREN, we don't introduce services that nobody wants, or we don't introduce whatever other features that nobody's asking for. So the thing that I think is a challenge is actually finding good processes and having good dialogue with our customers or partners. And hopefully there are going to be a dialogue, like you mentioned, also behind, so to speak, the IT department, to the researchers, to the procurers, to the educators, to the students, and so on, to be able to find a coordinated way to find out what's necessary, what's needed for our partners/customers. But I also think that we need to find ways to communicate directly with those groups, like this, for instance, students, researchers, and so on. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that we have to bypass the IT department, as long as we do it in a coordinated way. So I know it's a challenge, but I think it's important to do that, because in some cases because there are big research projects that we naturally have to have direct dialogue with. So, but if you do it in a coordinated way, I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah, in this case, in this situation, I am having a split soul, so to say, because I'm also a CIO at a university at the same time as being a CIO at the same time as being a CEO at this national activity. So I can speak with myself, have these discussions that Kurt is addressing you with here sometimes. But the situation is like this: the universities are very different, and how do we expect a national organization to treat the universities when they are so different? So why cannot universities all be alike? And it was much easier. I mean, could we have some regulations like the ones they have in Norway, had for a number of years, to have the same services and so? No, we cannot. I mean, this is not an option, definitely not in Denmark. So they have to be allowed to be different. They have to have their own priorities. They have to decide for themselves what is the right and what do they want to build by themselves, what do they want to have not invented here syndromes about, and what is actually useful to make in collaboration. And I think this is one of the challenges. And I think this, what David Lampert was into, that we are now moving into a more globalized situation with the MOOCs coming on, and there is really now competitions with having students attending the education at your university. That makes things very much different in the next couple of years. So I think there is now a time where universities want to work together with national entities, with international entities, and then this is our time to try to address the universities and to make this collaboration happen, I think. But we must understand they are very different, and they come from different historic and maturity and everything like this.
Yeah, I can tell you a story, and it's a true story. I was studying for 10 years in Helsinki University of Technology, and I think I was using Funet. I didn't know anything about Funet the first 7 or 8 years. I was using network. Yeah, it worked fine, no problem. The problems were somewhere else, of course. Yeah, I was studying 10 years, so some problems with the studying. No, not with the tools, not with anything else. But I mean, yeah, nowadays we have some services which really are meant to be used by end users, like the students, like the researchers, whoever there inside the universities. Yeah, it's an interesting chain of offering service, because NRN is offering services to IT departments of some universities, and universities are then kind of serving them. It's a chain. It's a chain, and of course, more actors there. It makes challenges, but yeah, times has changed in 10 years or 12 years, and now we have services. We really need to tell the end users about the services. How is it going to happen? I don't know. We have tried. We have tried with File Center. We made a poster of the File Center, really big one, and the biggest university in Finland, Helsinki University, really wanted us to do that. And that was cooperation, and that was one fruitful way to do it. They put the really big posters in the campuses, and the graphics use of File Center really explodes. End of story.
We also use File Center, and we're very happy about it. Yes. And not using that much Dropbox. Probably we are using Dropbox anyway. because the end users actually decides what they're going to use. And I think you mentioned early on that, well, are we bypassing the IT department? Yeah, many are actually. So wake-up call here for IT departments. Yes, end users decide what to use actually, and they should do that. What we should offer them is good communication, close service, stable services, also from NRENs. But what is the IT department role then in the future? Like you have addressed the role for NRENs. And I see it from the IT department that we should be brokers. We should know what's coming up. We should know what services are available and offer them in good communication with the end users. Because you will never be that big that you can the end users, all the teachers and researchers and students. So I think that makes the role clear. Hopefully in the future the NREN can build the big services like file sender or phone services, video services, and the local IT department can build the local specialized services, which is not scalable. That could be a good divide by our different roles in it. Question or comment?
Since you're in the storytelling mode, NRENs are a community. It's one of my favorite Dave Lampert's citations. When we build a education and research network, it's a community, it's not an organization. It's not about having customers, it's about building a community together. And whenever I think about that, I also think about another well-known man, maybe a bit more warlike than Dave Lampert, Bismarck from Germany, who said, once you've seen politics and sausages made, you will not want to be involved in either of the two, which just goes to show that, not politics in the politics sense, but the making of consensus and the rather messy process we have as a community to agree on things is one of the things that looks weird about the National Research and Education Networks from a distance, because we are not only providing services, we're also having this community building function, and that looks weird from a distance. But things are not necessarily weird. They're just the way we do something that's not quite business, but is the stuff that we're supposed to do, and being community builders. And I had to take offense about several people, at least someone behind me, implied that you could tell Norwegians, even Norwegian universities, how to do a thing. Feel free to experiment on the Norwegians close to you, either tonight at dinner or tomorrow at the conference dinner, and see how far that goes. It isn't about telling people, it's about finding a way to agree on how to move forward. And I think that's the foremost role of the NREN. Yes, we can also build stuff, but getting people to agree is much more difficult than building things. And I'd like you to comment on that.
Yeah?
Well, actually, as I mentioned, the SUNET community, I very much agree with you, actually, because, of course, it is a community. It's a fantastic community to work with, which contains of many people from university, but also researchers. We also have students. We are a bunch of different persons coming from different organizations that is in our SUNET community. So I really like that word. So I totally agree with you on that one, and we could, of course, elaborate and develop, you know, the communication and our community in a even efficient or whatever way you want to like it, community. But so that's of course what we are doing. But on the other hand, I also feel that we also have to be more professional in delivery of our services. So I have this ability of thinking as I'm speaking. I have to tell you that really in advance. It's not always very successful. But what I mean is, it's not, by saying that, it's not that I mean that the community is not professional. I don't mean that. But I also mean that in some way we have to be market-oriented, maybe it's not the right word here, but I think you understand what I mean here. So we want to keep the community feeling, of course, having this collaboration, partnership, and all these kind of things. But on the other hand, we have to be a little bit like a market play, and you have all this technology in place, the security in place, the economy in place, and all these kind of things. So it's a tricky situation. Even it's manageable, and in many cases also very nice.
Final questions or comments? We have one cliffhanger. Therefore, he announced that there is a video, and maybe that will be a good way to end this presentation. And until we find that, I find that this has given me a good insight in the NDN's future, and thank you very much for that. Inspiring, and I think it has been more. It has given us more to work on in the future, and I think this could be a good cooperation. And there is different tasks for us, different roles, and I will take the role in communicating the services that's provided from the NDN and share that with my CEO colleagues. And we are ready to go.
Maybe we can go.
That is going on in Iceland.
We give the panel, the entrance, a hand here at the last. thank you for joining in. 6 o'clock there is a reception downstairs. Thank you. Pleasure. Likewise. Before? Yes. I was in 1.5 years ago.